Nahu Mikey P, Mike Pribozie, back with another Assiniboia show. And we're back on video. Manitoba Derby was last week. Eric Decoster's here this week doing some pick four for Assiniboia. Eric, MVP, one of the MVPs. I know PTF says it's me, but I know you're right there with me of In the Money Media. So welcome to the Assiniboia podcast this week.
Yeah, excited to be here. First time joining for Assiniboia. I've honestly, I didn't follow it much before they started partnering with us, but since they have, I've been following along like I know so many at home have, and it's been enjoyable when I can catch it. And obviously, they're coming off their huge week last week, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, last week was their big night. They had mandatory payout for that pick five. It paid very well. They had over 2 million bet into it. The handle last week for Assiniboia for Manitoba Derby Day, 3.7 million for one night. That was last Monday night, and that was an unbelievable night for them.
100%. I my last stop before coming back home was at a slightly smaller track, kind of mid-sized track in Prairie Meadows. So I can understand what those big days can mean to a track like that, and when they're successful, it really just kind of makes the entire meet. And I'm sure the folks at Assiniboia are feeling that way right now, which is just great to see. Always good to see the smaller tracks getting their share.
Yeah, lots of interest for Assiniboia just because of their spot on the schedule. They're Monday, Tuesday, now back to Wednesday nights, and we're going to be talking about Wednesday's pick four because I looked at the sequences this week. That looked like the best sequence to me. Late pick fours at Assiniboia is $1 minimum. It's 50,000 guaranteed. Those four pools are typically around 100,000, and last week on Monday they were 180,000. So huge pots for these late pick fours. Like I said, we're going to do Wednesday, and that's the last four races. Usually start around 9:50 Eastern time. Erica, the first race for Wednesday night. It's a mile on the dirt, only dirt for Assiniboia Downs. They I don't know if they'll ever put a turf course in up there, but it's an optional claiming. It's an allowance race that they write up here. These are some nicer horses that are on the grounds going a mile to start the pick four.
Absolutely, yeah. A nice competitive bunch. Some of the more high quality horses on the grounds. It seems always nice to get those types around. And like I said, competitive horses. You have some breakout figures here and there, but at the end of the day, most of them do kind of come back to the consistent numbers. We have a horse in the one exacting who's dropping out of stakes company where he's been favored twice. Sure, he got beaten both times, but that goes to show you the quality in this race. So it's really exciting. I'm excited to see where you go, see if we're kind of on the same page, because I know I saw the race going three different ways, so I used three different horses, but I'd love to hear how you kind of looked at it.
Yeah, too deep for me here, and I was looking to the outside of the gate here. Depending on how this race is going to be bet, I was sort of against exacting. I didn't want him coming out of those couple stakes races. He's a closer. I think that the speed to the outside is going to be probably more the place to be. The 6 Willis Chill, two wins and then a near miss second so far since shipping to Assiniboia from Golden Gate. Has climbed the ladder very quickly. Started in a 4 claimer and then since stretched out and been hanging out in these allowance races. Now, did lose at 1-2 odds last time, but that was coming off a 79 bar. Could have regressed a little off of that line. I think that should improve, and I figured that anywhere near that 66 back from June the 4th should be competitive in this race. So I'll use that one. And then the 7 Fast Traffic, nice win last time. Able to get the jump on that field when like almost 9-1, dropping out of a stakes race. This horse could be getting sharper here, and I think probably stands to get a stalking type trip similar to last time. An early move would be beneficial again if the 6 and 7 roll around the racetrack together. I think one of those two win the race.
For sure, yeah. I see it pretty similarly. The 7 was one of the horses I didn't end up using, but he's one where I feel like if you need to just to protect yourself, you absolutely should, because I do think there's 4 types in here that are pretty similar. My ultimate top pick was the 2 Ratliff City. He's another one that's kind of risen through the ranks. Started off earlier in the meet winning a 2-lifer for $5,000, and now he's all of a sudden he won at a similar level last time out. Biggest speed figure of his career. He needs to get a little better, but I feel like he's going the right direction. It was his first time around 2 turns in a while. I felt like he was able to assert himself well, and I hope he's ridden a little aggressively from there. And if he is, then I think if he makes the lead, he'll be hard to stop. I'm also slightly against exacting, but I am using him because I feel like if he is able to sit forward, he is competitive. I think the rides in the last two races have been a little too patient, and he has the same rider this time around. Not saying he's not a good jock, but I feel like the more often this horse has been aggressive in his career, the better it's paid off for him. And he's just kind of put him to sleep the last two races, and it's caught him in a position where he's had to do more than he really wants to do late in the game. So I kind of see it, okay, if Ratliff City makes the lead, Ratliff City wins. If exacting's within a length or two of the lead, like I think he wants to be, he should win. And then I ultimately went with the 6, Will Is Chill, as kind of my third horse to kick off this first leg, because I think he's versatile. I think he can sit forward. I think he can sit just off of it. And if those first two have those scenarios I laid out happen, they probably win. But if they take each other out, if Fast Traffic shows a lot of speed and tries to go with him, anybody really, then he's the off-the-pace type. If that is how he's ridden, I think can clean it up. So just kind of covering all the bases. I see it going one of three ways, so might as well have the right horse in those three scenarios.
Yeah, I might have to add the 2 here, just listening to you talk. Looking back at that August 5th race, obviously that was last week, and that track favored closers. This horse won up close, so that might be a little bit and they're straight back in here too, right back in a week later off that line. Now that might be a horse that might be worth adding to my ticket. So 6 and 7, but I think I might add the 2 there on your recommendation.
Perfect. Yeah, I visually, did I love it? No, but he just seems like a horse that's going the right direction, and I'm really encouraged that when he stretched back out in distance, it seemed like he really he's 2 for 2 going a flat mile now in his career, and I think that might just be the key from him for here on out.
Let's move on to race number 5, and this is a 3 life 5 claimer going 5.5 on the dirt. I think we saw this race pretty similar.
Yeah, I think the race runs entirely through the 3 Lady Cop. I'm happy to go alone with her and move on, just doing everything right. She took a drop in class last time out, didn't win after kind of going at it early on, it seemed, and just kind of being second best. But I think it was a move in the right direction after kind of getting lost. She has really big numbers that far surpass anyone else in this race. If she makes the lead, which she should do, no speed to her inside, she should be good as gone. High percentage jock trainer combo here. It seems pretty cut and dry to me. I really couldn't think of anything else to be creative.
Yeah, I agree with you here on Lady Cop. Just some of these other ones are struggling, and the one Silver Sign did win last time, but there was a big dropper in that race, and it was the 5 Mary Who, and that horse was favored there, but it was a big drop coming out of allowance races. Now this horse is straight back in here after being claimed for 5 off the top barn in that spot. I didn't like this horse that night. The horse was, I think, 3 to 5 in the book, if I recall, and didn't really take much money. It was $1.75 on the board, and then ran to it. Actually ended up 3rd in that spot. Now I'm not sure that I want any part of that one, or really anything that raced against that horse in that race. So Lady Cop's very obvious, is speedy enough. I think is faster than these. You know, that line on June the 17th was pretty poor, but ended up a 1-9 favorite there on July the 3rd and ended up losing. Now, I'm typically not a fan of that. If you lose at 1-9, that's usually an indication that something really, either you had a bad trip or maybe, you know, something was amiss. But versus these horses, it's just really hard to look past that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's, as low as the level we are here, there's not a ton of holes I can poke in Lady Cop, which when you come to these more bottom level types, you just kind of have to ride with that hot hand, even if it's not the pretty, you're not getting anything creative out of it. You're not going to get a big pay, but you'll at least keep us moving in this pick 4.
We'll move on to race number 6, a little bit more competitive race, I think. It's a $5,500 claimer. They go for 13-2 up there. Another 5.5 on the dirt, Eric.
Yeah, definitely a competitive race. I went 2 deep, but I honestly feel like I could go 1 deep. I think I got skinny enough with that single that I can afford to go with 2 horses here. I think we might as well start with the horse that'll probably be favored, the 8 Load Abroad. She's not my top choice, but she comes in off back-to-back wins, gets claimed for a barn that has won plenty at the meet, picks up top rider. She's just doing it all right, can close from off the pace too, which is encouraging. As you mentioned, the track has played to the closers at times. We'll see what happens come Wednesday, but of course, just something to watch. She just can do it all right, and she'll be able to play the break just fine and go from there. But my top choice is going to be the 5, Casino Queen, because I don't see a ton of pace on paper, a few inklings of it, but I think Casino Queen can be on the top end if she wants to be. She can sit back if she wants to be, just off of it within a length or two, and still be effective. I think realistically she makes it this time. But I think the reason she's lost her last year is she just got kind of mixed up in the pace a little bit too much too early. And I don't think that's the case this time. I think it's going to play a lot more to her liking. I was encouraged that she kind of refound that form after 2 dull efforts in 2 and 3 back. And if you go back, even though it was for a different barn, she had some pretty strong figures that would fit at this level, even at tougher company back earlier this year. So I think she makes a lot of good sense. I can absolutely see a good case for the 8 load abroad, but I think Casino Queen might just get a slightly better trip here. And I don't think she's that much worse than load abroad, even though she lost her last time out.
Yeah, I was trying to beat load abroad in here just because I'm a little chalky early. So I'm going to try to catch a price in here. And with load abroad, I mean, it claimed last time. This trainer's 0 for 5, not coming off of claims. Now, useful trainer, obviously 20% at the meet, but that seems to be a negative angle, despite just a slow, I think a very small sample size. Agree on the 5, though. Casino Queen, like you said, much better last time. Speedy, drops back to the 5.5. Has been facing tougher, too, like Half in the Rapper, Kate's Princess. Those are very difficult horses. And despite the figures being a little lower, I just think that this is definitely a better spot class-wise for that one. The 3 I thought was interesting. Kim's Texas Bling, 6-1 morning line, claimed by a barn that's 25% off claims here with a positive ROI, has been claimed basically 3 starts in a row. So another different barn, but seems to fire the same shot every time, likes the racetrack, 6 for 20, and just might get the right trip here. Typically comes from off the pace. Probably think these things to heat up here, but it could. So I think that might be the best closer in here. And then the 6 Diamond Grand was another one I was interested in. Has been facing these types recently and has been competitive. Now, probably gets more shares than wins, but shrinks back to the 5.5. That could be a positive angle. It raced pretty well at the 5.5 in September of last year, just missing by a neck. Again, another one from off the pace, but I just think Fitz probably needs the trip out. Has had some wide posts too, so I think could be better in here. And the 8's going to be the favorite again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we read it very similarly. I think there's opportunity in this race, which is nice, but obviously it's one of those favorites where you're not shocked if she wins. You're not shocked if she throws in a clunker, right? It's a little. That's what makes it tricky. We said it's competitive, and that's what makes it a little tricky.
Well, we're going to move to the last race. It's race number 7. This is a nice wide open 12-horse field. It's a 2 life for $5,000 claimers going 6 furlongs. Eric, how am I going to get paid here?
I go 4 deep, and I'm going to take a small shot with the 12 Just to Pose as my top choice in here. She is a Manitoba bred. And when you get to these bottom levels, it's always intriguing to see what kind of you always get a mix, right? Wherever you are, Oaklawn, Prairie Meadows, right? My 2 tracks, right? You see it all the time at the bottom level. And honestly, the Iowa breds, the Arkansas breds, they can hang with them because they're bottom level horses or near the bottom level horses. So I go with this Manitoba bred because I do like that she burned the Manitoba bred restricted 2 life condition last time out and put up a pretty strong figure for that level in the positive. 52 buyer is really encouraging in my eyes. So you put that and you add in the fact that she has really good open company efforts, 2 and 3 back, second against open company. 3 starts ago was only beaten 2 lengths for open company. So it's just, you like that she can hang with them and also has a win in her back pocket off the last start. And kind of to wrap it all up, I love the outside draw for her. I think that there's enough speed that she can sit just off of, or more importantly, the jockey Patterson can kind of read the break and see what he needs to do. It's a very advantageous post for the situation here. And obviously it's a long run up to that far turn. They have that chute that they start out of. So they'll have plenty of time to kind of figure out where they want to be. So it just makes a lot of good sense to me. Improving, can hang with this bunch, it seems, and you're going to get the right trip. The other 3, I feel like there's going to be a lot of attention for the 3 flying first class as she makes her first start here from Lone Star. She might be tough. I just wonder if maybe she'll get mixed up in something too long. And that same kind of goes for the 2 Cuss and Cat. She's just more of a speed type, needs the lead type. She hasn't made it recently, but when she does, that's her best effort. So that's where I could see him getting wrapped up. But I do like them both up from a pure talent perspective. And Cousin Cat has a huge figure to go back to. It was last year, but when you get to this level, those aren't things you can ignore. And then finally, the 9 Mobile Creek Logical kind of takes a drop. She was in the restricted stakes company, comes back to the level that she's, she ran in state bred 2 Life a few starts ago, now open, but she can be competitive in here with the right trip.
So I agree on a couple of those. I definitely agree on the 12. Just Oppose. I like that race. This horse seems to take money and definitely fits versus these types. You can't, like you said, you can't ignore that 52 last time. Could be improving. The horse is 2 for 12. So limited starts always seems to be around it. I like the 11 Au Pair. I think a must use in here. Now this is a drop, but was able to break the maiden in a maiden special weight back in May, and then tried some toughies. The numbers are 2 for allowance. That's a tough race. That was versus older. And faced straight 3s last time. It was 70-1 in that stakes race. Really didn't belong there. Now this is a much better spot here. This is a five claimer 2 Life. Maybe that's where this horse should have fit all along. It was ultimately claimed in a maiden back in Tampa back in February. So this horse has seen tags before. I think it could be a use in this race. Seems fast enough. Agree on the 9 Mobile Creek. I think a speedy type that drops out of those state bred stake type races has been close too. 2 seconds and a third in this one's last 3. So I think that one, I agree on that one. I'll use the 6 and the 7 also. Cavour 20-1 morning line really drops after it was claimed and then stepped into a stakes race. Now you get blinkers off back to probably the proper level. I think that could be an okay use, especially at that price. And then the 7 Woke Joke is another one. Comes off a win, just broke the maiden. So it was claimed, put back in a maiden race, and ended up winning off of that. Now steps into the 2 Life level for a barn that, maybe, has the key to this one. So I think pretty wide open race to finish up the pick 4, Eric.
Clearly, yeah. I mean, you made a solid case for all of those, right? I think it's a race you have to go deep in. We covered a lot of good ground here, and it's just hard because the race, it's kind of muddy how it'll shape out too. So it's not like you can say, I need the off the pace type, love the speeds. I said I thought it could get a little hot, and then I used a bunch of speed horses. So no, I like every case you made. It's a tricky leg, and I think you're just going to kind of have to, as a bettor, make up your mind somewhere and hope it sticks. That's the beauty of it. But you love a good 12-horse field to close out a solid sequence like this. It should be a fun evening of racing.
Absolutely. So this is Wednesday night, August the 14th, $1 minimum late pick 4 at Assiniboia Downs. Eric, final thoughts. You going to get involved on Wednesday?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously the pays have been really strong throughout the meet. I like the ticket I've constructed here. There's no confidence, I think, anywhere in that final leg. But I personally, when I see a challenge like this, I love to attack it more so than something that's a little bit more straightforward. It just feels a little bit more rewarding if you're able to connect on something like this. So it's going to be a good way to spend a Wednesday.
Absolutely. Get in Assiniboia Downs Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, 8:30 Eastern. Remember that $1 late pick 4. There's lots of other great bets too, though. They have rolling doubles there. They have a $1 high 5 in the last race. They do have that jackpot pick 5. They just recently did the mandatory payout, so that pot will be building again. That's the last 5 races. Jump in on Assiniboia. Eric, thanks for doing this, and hope you're well.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It was fun. We'll have to do it again sometime.
And we'll see you guys next time. This has been a production of In the Money Media. Our president is Peter Thomas Fornatel, and we'll see you next week for Assiniboia.